post. And now this place is a loony bin, Phil Bork, and we've got a 1-to-1 hockey game. It's a power play goal.
Well, right on the money. Kris needed to step up, and that's exactly what he did.
Blow the whistle while the Penguins attack. Vermette trying to get it together. Oh, Michel Ouellette had the chance of the night that did not go in. Now it's Beach, down low to Christensen. Ouellette shoots and scores! Olé, olé, olé!
Hey, welcome to Intangibles for Performance, presented to you by myself, Kris Beach, Aim Mind Training. And I believe this is our 9th installment of this series. And today we'll be talking about flourishing strength of social conscience and being altruistic, having social conscience, and a fitting strength for today's climate and what we're dealing with. And again, I did not plan this topic. It's part of a series. It's part of my colleague Dr. Wayne Hammond's research from the University of Calgary, who has studied for years what it takes to be successful, to be at your best in any performance environment, and do so in a healthy way. And this is one of those characteristics. So having social conscience and altruism is a strength. It's a strength that helps you in many different ways to be at your best in your health and well-being. So now, right now in the story of my athletic career, my hockey experience, we are at a point where I'm still in Pittsburgh's organization with their AHL team, and I can link this back that far, and you know, as pro athletes or athletes in general, you know, we're quite often expected to use our influence and our athletic prowess and, you know, our somewhat of our recognition and our celebrity to give back to the community. And that's just an expectation. And for me back then, I didn't really understand it. And I think it was because I had a hard time grasping why fans were the way they were with us. Like, I didn't feel like I really deserved that. So I had a hard time with it. I had in my heart, I cared about people and those less fortunate to me, but I didn't fully grasp the influence and impact I could have on people in the community. So when we had those events that were charity events or giving back to the community in some way, I engaged with them. I was there, but I didn't fully understand the impact that we could have. And in my experience, there was about 1 or 2 guys per team that really got it throughout my 15-year career. They really understood it. They were really wholeheartedly passionate about giving back to the community, and they understood the impact that they had on people. The rest of my peers, straight up, the rest of my peers engaged, but just didn't get it. And this is not, you know, this is my experience, but I also did a little research on it as well. And if you look at the major sports in North America, those numbers actually hold true. So out of 4,000 athletes, pro athletes in the 4 major sports, about 500 of them were regularly involved with charities or giving back to the community. So not just my experience, actual research done on that. But anyways, back to my point. It's something that is important, something important for society. It's something important for our well-being and our ability to perform. It feels good to give back in that way. It helps us realize that we're not just athletes. We're people, as a part of a society, part of a community, and we have the obligation to engage and give back to that community that gives us so much opportunity. So that's that piece. And I think the biggest thing with social conscience, and what I've learned, and now I'm much more in tune with it, is really first knowing yourself, being confident in yourself and your points of view, your experience, your education, but also pursuing that self-knowledge, pursuing the education required to develop that social conscience. Why are people homeless in the city of Vancouver with so much wealth surrounding us? Why are there drug addicts on the streets? Why are there people with health issues, cognitive health issues, brain disease on the streets? Why can't they afford medication? Why can't they afford treatment? You know, these things are questions that you need to ask. You know, something that is really part of developing that social conscience is figuring out why these people are suffering in the way that they are. Every one of them has a story. You know, knowing that, you know, I was relatively lucky to have a supportive family and positive role models and leadership growing up. A lot of these people that are less fortunate than me don't have this. Knowing that, taking that perspective, what was their environment growing up? Who are their parents? Where do they come from? What have they been through? You know, this is such a huge contributing factor to how people move through this society. And we need to investigate that and ask those questions. Also, racism, clearly a issue, and I don't really need to comment on that. We all know what's going on in North America and all over the world right now with Black Lives Matter and racism in the black community, toward the black community. This is something I learned a lot about as a 12-year-old. I used to listen to hip-hop, and I listened to a lot of artists that spoke about racism and did so in a very educated way. So I shaped my views as a 12-year-old, and I started to educate and understand about that, this as a 12-year-old. And to this day, I continue to educate myself. And, you know, I think that in this, in society right now, it's been safe to kind of say, well, everyone's a little racist. We all have a little bit of a bias towards people that look like us. You know, it's part of our evolutionary DNA. And you have a lot of prominent thinkers that will talk like that. They use that science, the science of anthropology, the science of how humans evolved, and they'll use that and say, well, you know, this is just how we are. It's natural. This is how we evolved. This is how we developed our communities, our societies. So it's natural. So it's okay. You shouldn't feel ashamed of having a bias towards people that looked like yourself. And I like science. And I understand that. You know, you could also talk about Dunbar's number. Go look up Dunbar's number. Dunbar is a researcher that has determined with pretty decent validity that humans are only capable, they only have the cognitive capacity to recognize and hold 150 faces in our memory, and to develop a somewhat intimate relationship with 150 people. So the size of a small village. And as we move down in the numbers, we get more and more intimately connected with this people to a point of 5 people around us, which he calls our kin. So I get this, I get science and I understand that, but take a look around. I'm walking right now in the city of Vancouver. I don't know how many million people live here. Take a look around. We are not in villages of 150 people. So although I respect that science, I also understand that that is not it for us. That may be to where we are now. I also understand that we are not done evolving, we are not done changing, and I also understand that the mind is plastic, it's malleable, it can change. And you know, part of what we work on, part of what I work on within mindfulness, within focus and attention, is understanding that we have a choice. We have a choice what we give energy and attention to. And for me, racism is a choice. It's not a disease. A disease, for the most part, you have no control over. I mean, and I guess diet and exercise is within your control. But for the most part, disease we have no control over. Racism is a choice. Racism is a learned behavior. It's taught. And it's time we start to choose to shift away from that and understand that that's possible. You know, I look at my daughter and I understand. She's 2 years old. And I can look at her when she goes to a park. And I understand right away that racism is learned. Racism is taught, either directly or indirectly. Because she'll go to a park, she'll go up to any kid, any race, any color of skin, say hello, and start to play with them. She's learning 2 languages. She could probably learn, I don't know, 5 more. She has no judgment in her. So although I understand some of the prominent thinkers that use anthropology and the history of human development as an excuse for social bias and racial bias, give your head a shake. Like, you consider yourself a thinker in this world. You're not. You're a textbook reader. You know, these people sound like textbooks, and they don't think beyond this rigid approach. So point being, there are things that we can do. There are practices, there's training for the mind that we can engage in that helps facilitate openness and acceptance of all people, and openness and acceptance of people that are challenging and difficult to us. There is things that we can do, and like I said, I do like science, and that's why I love Dr. Wayne's research, is because he's actually able to show that developing this type of perspective and this strength is good for you in a variety of different ways. So that's it for today's Intangibles for Performance. A little different format here, talking about some current stuff. But I'll be back at it in a week or two, and I hope you're enjoying these videos, and I'll see you soon.